c'est quelqu'un qui a talent, c'est du niveau de Messi, et sans faire de langue de bois. Hein,
At just 12 years old, Ben Arfa wasn't living a normal childhood. While most kids his age were still figuring out what they wanted to be, he was already walking through the gates of Clairefontaine, the legendary academy that shaped the likes of Thierry Henry, Kylian Mbappe, and Nicolas Anelka. From the very beginning, he was seen as something extraordinary. By 15, newspapers were calling him the greatest French talent of all time. Scouts from Manchester United, Chelsea, Ajax, and AC Milan circled like hawks, sensing the arrival of a generational prodigy. But even before he kicked a ball professionally, the world got a glimpse of the storm that lived inside him. During a documentary filmed at Clairefontaine, cameras caught a young Ben Arfa losing his temper in a heated argument with Abou Diaby. Angry words flew, insults crossed a line, at one point screaming an insult so personal about the profession of Diaby's mother, and suddenly, the wonder kid everyone admired looked like a ticking time bomb. Before even signing his first contract, his name had become synonymous with brilliance and chaos. Lyon took a gamble and brought him in. There he met another teenage phenom, Karim Benzema. In their first season together, they led Lyon's academy team to the Under-16 Championship final. The next year, alongside Samir Nasri, they took France to victory in the Under-17 European Championship, Ben Arfa scoring in every single game until the final. The country's future seemed set. Benzema, Nasri, Ben Arfa, France's new golden generation. By the time they broke into Lyon's first team, both were making headlines. For 3 seasons, they came off the bench and changed games, breathing life into matches that seemed lost. Lyon swept up 6 trophies in 3 years. The future looked unstoppable. And then, just as quickly as it rose, everything started to crack. With Benzema cementing his place as Lyon's star striker and Florent Malouda departing for Chelsea, Ben Arfa opened the new season on fire. A brace against PSG, 2 more goals days later against Stuttgart, one of them slaloming through defenders and finishing from an impossible angle. He earned his first national team call-up, then his first goal for France within half an hour of his debut. Lyon was his stage, and he was the brightest light on it. But the same fire that made him fearless on the pitch burned bridges off it. He clashed with his coach, argued with the president, and even fell out with Benzema. The club tried to patch things up with a new deal, but by the end of the season, tensions exploded. A locker room fight, a broken dressing room. Even as Lyon lifted 3 more trophies, their young genius was done. Then came the drama. Rejecting Manchester United, Arsenal, and even Real Madrid, he forced a move to Lyon's rivals, Marseille, pure defiance. When the transfer stalled, he fired his agent, refused to train, and disappeared, leaving behind a €90,000 check in his locker. Courtrooms replaced stadiums. Reporters swapped goal highlights for legal updates. In one hearing, he looked the Lyon president in the eye and asked, "You said you'd treat me like a son. Tell me, do you treat your own child like this?" When the dust settled, Marseille paid €12 million for him, making Ben Arfa their most expensive signing ever. It should have been a fresh start, the rise of a superstar reborn. But with Ben Arfa, things were never that simple. 2 weeks. That's all it took for chaos to follow Ben Arfa to Marseille. Barely settling into his new life, he found himself in a full-blown fight with Djibril Cissé. It didn't matter that he was lighting up the pitch, 6 goals and 4 assists in just 11 games. His temper, his pride, his impulse to explode. It always came first. Then came the night in the Champions League against Liverpool. The lights were bright, the cameras everywhere, and before the whistle even blew, Ben Arfa was once again fighting with a teammate. He got benched, refused to come on when called, and with that one act of defiance, torpedoed his season. From rising star to problem child, just like that. He stayed stuck while his old friend Benzema joined Real Madrid, posing for photos with Cristiano Ronaldo and Kaká. Ben Arfa, meanwhile, found himself under the rule of Didier Deschamps, a manager as ruthless as he was pragmatic. Fans started mocking him as the coach who killed football's Mozart, insisting Deschamps was suffocating the artist inside Ben Arfa. And yet, even with limited minutes, Hatem found flashes of brilliance again. 5 goal contributions in 7 matches, the Player of the Month award in February, an assist in the League Cup final, and one more that sealed Marseille's first league title in 18 years. He saved the club's season, and still, they benched him. Some fans started whispering that Deschamps was only holding him back to make himself look like the hero. Maybe Hatem believed it, because soon after, he went on strike. Broke his silence to the press, saying he was ready to go an entire season without playing. Then he disappeared again, fleeing to Paris. At that point, Marseille knew better than to fight him. They gave up. But to understand how someone this talented could keep burning down everything he built, you have to dig into his mind. Because this isn't just about football, it's about what drives a genius to self-destruct. By the age of 23, Ben Arfa had already won 15 trophies, more than Maradona, Kaká and Zidane had at the same age. Michel Platini once called him the new Maradona. Henry said he was a footballing monster. Even the players he fought with, Cissé, Benzema, admitted he had talent on par with Messi. And yet, when he looked around, no elite club wanted him. Just Galatasaray, Newcastle, Werder Bremen. How could someone so gifted be so unwanted? Part of the answer comes from his entourage, starting with his mysterious advisor, Michel Ouazine. Originally his next-door neighbor, Ouazine became his shadow, his manager, his so-called father figure. By the time Hatem was at Lyon, Ouazine had already started calling the shots, whispering in his ear, isolating him from anyone who tried to reach him, including his real father. Karim Ben Arfa, a former Tunisian international, should have been the one guiding his son. But Hatem once said his father never hugged him, never told him he loved him, never made him feel like anything more than a project. One teammate said, "He's trying to make someone proud who just isn't there." That wound never healed. So when he arrived in England, he was already fragile. Newcastle signed him on loan, a chance to start over. But 4 matches later, disaster struck. Nigel de Jong crashed into him with a brutal tackle, shattering both his fibula and shin bone. His foot dangled uselessly. Even de Jong's own national team banned him from playing after that. Most clubs would have given up on Ben Arfa after such an injury, but Newcastle didn't. Alan Pardew didn't even want him at first, calling him a rascal, but the players couldn't stop talking about him. One said, "From the first session we were all just, wow, it was a joke how good he was." So they paid the fee. They waited. 412 days passed before Ben Arfa finally returned, and when he did, he gave Newcastle fans something to believe in again. Then came that goal against Blackburn. A solo run from midfield, 70 meters, 3 defenders down, pure electricity. A goal so outrageous it got nominated for the Puskas award. 92 days later, he did it again. This time even deeper on the pitch, dodging everyone, gliding through bodies like smoke, slotting it in. His teammates summed it up perfectly. Not many can dribble past a whole team and score, but to do it twice, wow. That 5-month stretch turned Ben Arfa into a cult hero. Every touch felt supernatural. Every game was a reminder of what raw, unfiltered genius looks like. He got called up to the Euros. The world thought maybe, just maybe, this was his redemption arc. But then, it all unraveled again. Barely an hour of game time, no goals, no assists, and yet he caused enough drama to start a war. He shouted in the locker room, furious that worse players than me get to play all they want. The confrontation got so bad that it led to an official disciplinary hearing. And then, life got darker. Not long after, Ben Arfa's father showed up at the headquarters where Michel Ouazine worked, crashed inside and headbutted him in front of witnesses, screaming, "You stole my son. You've stolen him from us." He later told reporters Ouazine had deliberately cut Hatem off from his family, shaping his career for personal gain. The truth? Still nobody knows. But when a fragile mind is tugged between a cold father and a manipulative mentor, what chance does it have? After that, Ben Arfa was dropped from the national team. He'd only play for France twice more before retirement. Still, he came back to Newcastle full of fire. Another good start, another promise of revival, before another injury blew it all apart. When he returned, he declared, "I still dream of winning the Ballon d'Or." But behind the words, everything was collapsing. The fans loved him more than ever. Pardew didn't. The stadium turned on the manager, plastering Ben Arfa's face over Che Guevara's and calling him the people's hero. The movement against Pardew grew, and Hatem became its symbol. Then, just like every other chapter of his career, it all turned to dust. Pardew, backed by senior players, shut him out entirely. No starts, no minutes. Banished to the under-21 team. "It felt like I was locked in a dark room with no exit," he said later. "I was a prisoner. I saw hell." And that's how he was sent to Hull City, thrown into exile. 9 matches, no spark left, his mental state unraveling by the day. Then one morning, without warning, Hatem Ben Arfa disappeared. France had almost given up on him. The wonder kid turned headline disaster, the boy who once made Zidane look mortal, was now just a rumor. Ben Arfa had vanished. Nobody knew whether he'd ever set foot on a football pitch again. Then, one quiet afternoon, Claude Puel, Nice's manager, a man who still remembered that electric teenager from his Lyon days, dug through his contacts, found Hatem's number, and made the call that would change everything. He told him, "Come here, I'll bring you back." Moments later, Ben Arfa was on TV again, smiling with conviction, saying, "Even if Real Madrid called me right now, I would still choose Nice." It sounded like the dawn of his redemption story. But then, just as life always seemed to do with him, the walls closed in. The French Football Federation froze the transfer, claiming that his one match for Newcastle's under-21 team counted as an official appearance. According to FIFA's rulebook, that meant he had technically played for 3 clubs in a single season, a violation. No football, no paycheck, no spotlight, nothing. For 9 long months, Hatem Ben Arfa was cast out of the game he loved most. He talked about quitting at just 28 years old. His only connection to football became the small 5-a-side games he played with friends, chasing old feelings on cold turf. The press mocked him. One newspaper wrote, "Ben Arfa is now nothing more than a sorry tale for the local pub." And yet, buried beneath the noise, the fire still burned. When asked what kept him going, he said, "I'd go to the North Pole just to play football if I had to." Nice's president, Jean-Pierre River, refused to give up. He believed in the unreplicable magic of Ben Arfa, and when Hatem finally got his chance again, it was as if the world had pressed rewind. In just his 3rd match back, he scored a solo goal that left 5 defenders behind him, a blur of instinct and defiance. Then came another masterpiece, against Saint-Étienne, slicing through a defense like a man possessed. 9 goal contributions in 9 matches. By the time the season ended, he'd hit 17 goals and assists in total, finishing among League One's top scorers despite playing from midfield. Nice finished 4th, their best result since 1970, a massive achievement. The once-forgotten prodigy had dragged them into the limelight. Eric Cantona even went on live TV, calling him the best player in France, taking shots at Deschamps for leaving him out of the Euro 2016 squad. But if France didn't want him, Europe sure did. Offers came from Barcelona, Chelsea, Atletico, and PSG. For a Paris-born boy raised on dreams of the Parc des Princes, it wasn't even a choice. The prodigal son was coming home. But fairy tales have a cruel sense of humor. Unai Emery never wanted him. The PSG board did. Free transfer, big name, childhood fan, it sold shirts and headlines. They even added a behavior bonus to his deal. €75,000 extra per month if he showed up on time and kept quiet in the media. It was less a contract and more a peace treaty. But it didn't matter. Emery gave him minutes only in the French Cup, never in the league, never in the Champions League. Still, Hatem turned those crumbs into gold, 9 goal contributions in 3 matches, before Emery suddenly dropped him from the semi-finals onwards. One day in front of the squad, Emery snapped, "Stop talking like you're Messi, you're nowhere near him." And Hatem? He snapped right back, not with punches or tantrums, but mockery, mimicking Emery's accent in the dressing room until laughter drowned out the tension. When PSG's president, Nasser Al-Khelaifi, tried forcing him into a transfer to Turkey, Hatem roasted him too, in front of the Emir of Qatar himself. The humiliation was so bad, the president vowed he'd never play for PSG again. And he didn't. For an entire season, Ben Arfa didn't play a single minute. Instead, he lived in defiance. He collected his salary, smiled for the cameras, and sometimes showed up spotted by fans eating kebabs from a food truck while his teammates trained. Then, exactly 1 year after his last call-up, he posted a photo on Instagram, himself, smiling, blowing out a candle on a birthday cake. The caption? Subtle, but everyone understood. Revenge would come one way or another, and it did. Almost a year later, PSG reached the French Cup final, only to find Ben Arfa waiting for them on the other side, dressed in the red of Rennes. His revenge tour was about to reach its crescendo. Rennes went 2 goals down, but Hatem, this time calmer, wiser, maybe even free, led the charge. Come the final whistle, the impossible happened. Rennes were champions. And then came the moment the cameras will never forget. Ben Arfa, trophy in hand, looked up into the stands, found Nasser Al-Khelaifi's face, and walked straight toward him. He extended his hand. The president hesitated, then, under the weight of every lens, shook it. Hatem smiled and told reporters, "It's a special night to win a trophy," while Nasser watched. He should have known. Never underestimate your opponent. One day, he might come back stronger. The curtain eventually fell on Hatem Ben Arfa's career. The world called him the greatest wasted talent in French football history. But he saw it differently. As he once said, "The fans at St. James's Park still sing my name to this day. What greater legacy could you leave?" And today, he's channeling that same intensity, that same artistry, only this time on the paddle court. Still competing, still chasing greatness, still refusing to be forgotten. But if you would like to know the dark secret truth about Nick Woltemade, they don't want you to know. Click the video link on screen now.